So today you lost $14,000, and I know I already messaged you on the Discord, and you said that for you, that is a pretty significant amount of money. That is like about 2 months of pay or something like that.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
So it was 15,000 for the week.
Oh,
I'm
for the week.
only I'm only down 5,000 on the day. The big loss was about 10,000, which was I believe it was Tuesday. So how this happened was I funded my account last last week, a couple weeks ago. I had $18,000 to start an account, and I had lost big last year. So last October, I had lost big also. I lost about $100,000 in my IRA, which is all of it. And then another like 25K on top of that. So I've gotten some practice losing big. And so I funded this account with 18,000. I told myself this is not money to gamble with. We're not going to do this again. We're doing safe things only, maybe selling puts, and really kind of low risk strategy, because this is not money for gambling and for losing. So how this started was on Tuesday, I was up a little bit. I took some small trades and I was up about $400. And then I took another trade and I took a loss. I took my first loss since I uploaded this, since I funded the account. I lost about $200. And I was like, oh man, I was at $400 on the day and I felt really good. I should have stopped trading and I didn't, but let me just do another quick trade and just get that $200 back. And then I'm done. I lost again. And then, so at that point, I was just under 18,000. I was like, well, you know what? Let's just get back to 18,000 because that's where I started with. Let's just get back there. Then I lost another 200. And I was like, okay, well, this is getting annoying now. So let me just only look at some good trades, some good setups, and get some of this money back. And then boom, I lost another 500. And then I was like, and then I started panicking. And then I was just really in the mode of I need to get this money back. Like again, this wasn't money that I had to lose. So keep on doubling down. If I got some calls, I was doing options, which was
So you do
uh,
trade options then, yeah.
I do. I stopped for a long time, and I just got addicted to that feeling of like instant growth. And it's like, why am I going to buy 20 shares when I can buy a call and get the gain so much faster? Um, so yeah, so that I kept on going deeper in calls. So I'd buy a call, and then the stock would drop, and then so I'd just buy another call. I'd just average down. I was like, I'll keep on averaging down, and eventually I'll get the pop and break even or something. And it just never happened. So my position size kept getting bigger and bigger. Looking at my trade history now, I was just doing one contract at a time, and then I see I did 3 contracts of Tesla, and then 7, and it kept going up and up.
So
And
you're almost taking like a martingale kind of approach towards this trading, where each time you lose, you double down, so that whenever you inevitably whenever you win, it would offset all the losses that you had taken up to that point. Was your
Yeah,
idea?
yeah, sort of. I wasn't doing that perfectly. Like it wasn't always doubling down. Kind of just depend on how I felt. Sometimes it was like, well, I'm not quite confident that this is the bottom, so maybe I won't double. I'll just like equal size, so I'll get another one or whatever. And then sometimes I did feel better. It's like, oh yeah, this is the bottom. Let me get 3 now to really boost up my size. Um, Maybe if I would have played smarter like that, like have an actual strategy and say like take your feelings out of it, and do something like that, I would have been a little better off. But if I had taken my emotions out of it, I wouldn't have been in this position to start with. So
So
that was already out the window.
right. One thing I was really interested in is you said that you had been trading before in an IRA. What
Mhm.
is your history with trading? Like, how long have you been trading, and how have you progressed? What have you done to learn
Sure.
trading? And
So yeah, so I'm 36 years old now. And I dabbled with it a little bit. I did like penny stocks when I was like 20. Um, Not any significant practice. I didn't practice for months or anything like that. I didn't go through any courses or anything like that. And I was sort of always in stocks. I had my 401k still, and kind of just did just general index funds for a while. And then I forgot how it was probably maybe July or August of 2019 last year, where I started to really get serious about it. Um, I think I saw Ross on Warrior Trading,
yep.
and I saw some of his videos, and I was like, wow, people can make some money. day trading, and I found StockJock, and kind of found all these YouTubers and streamers talking about stocks and day trading. And I was like, this, if I'm serious about this and I dedicate some time and effort to learning this stuff, I could do it. And the problem, I think, my biggest problem or failure is that I had money starting out, and I wish that I didn't, because if I would have had like $1,000 of savings, and I would have lost all that, that's not a big deal. But I had going into this, I probably had a total of $150,000 in savings, and that's a dangerous amount of money when you first learn about options and don't really understand the risks of options.
Absolutely.
And when you keep on doubling down and chasing it and trying to catch the falling knives, and getting so emotional. And that's one thing that I'm learning about myself, is that I really struggle with the emotional side of it. And before I'm done with options for a while, and I'm at least telling myself that I need to I need to learn to control my emotions and to actually figure this stuff out, because I can't keep on taking these giant losses. If I just blow every payday, every time I get paid, why am I even working?
So, do you think that because it sounds like you have at this point lost a total of maybe $150,000 in trading? Is that correct?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yep.
Do you think that to some degree that you might be a gambling addict, or do you think that that's not really at play here?
Oh, I was certainly I think it was Tuesday where I took that big loss, the big 10K loss. I never considered that before, but after that big loss, after telling myself that I wasn't going to do this and I did it anyways, that started to be a serious consideration. Yeah.
And
And I don't really know the answer to that. I think that's something I do need to
think about.
think about,
Mhm.
and figure that out. Like if that's kind of the conclusion that I come to, then I need to figure out, like, where do I go from here? Do I like only do index funds because I can't control myself, or that's something I need to figure out.
So one other thing that I kind of noted here is that you said that you think perhaps that you already had a good amount of money to begin with,
Mhm.
kind of made it so you didn't really learn your lesson over the several blowups that you've had. And
Yep.
this might actually not be known to many of the people that watch my videos, but I actually did have like a blow up trading options similar to you.
Mhm.
Before I became profitable trading actual just like stocks, like in buying shares, I initially got into trading through options, as many people do, and I funded an account with around $2,000. And very gradually, it was not just one big trade that blew me up, but just a bunch of accumulated like $300, $400 losses. And very quickly, I think just only a couple months into it, I was out of the game. And then that
Mhm.
was really like, I think that what you said has a lot of truth, that when you have a smaller amount of capital to start with, you really learn that lesson like a lot more like strongly, that okay, this is very dangerous and I can't afford to keep having these losses. And
Yep.
that it really did. It stuck with me to this day, because now I have an account where I'm funded above PDT, and I have tens of thousands of dollars at play, but
Yeah.
I still have that lesson that has like kept with me throughout all this time, where I don't lose. But yeah, I think that I totally agree with you that maybe having so much money makes it a lot harder to um learn the lesson, because it's you just have it's so plentiful, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And what I started to realize over this week is that the bigger the loss is, the more practically impossible it becomes to make that loss back. Not that you should be fighting to make your losses back, and I think that's something that I sort of lose control of. Is that if I'm down $100, $200, I feel like I need to get back $200, when I shouldn't think that way. I should just think the money is gone and just focus on the next trade. But then if I'm down $200 on an $18,000 account, who cares? I can easily get that money with the capital that I have. But if I'm down, $10,000, it's a lot harder to double your money to get back to break even than
absolutely.
it is if I would just be down $200.
My natural reaction whenever I have a big loss is to actually size down and trade
Hmm.
far more safely. And I noticed that it seemed like your reaction was to actually size up and maybe even trade more aggressively. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that I don't know. I wonder which of our perspectives is like the more popular one because I actually don't know how most people react to a large loss.
Yeah, well, so I'm fairly certain that your method is the better option, the one that's going to lose less money. Um, I think I don't do that because it's strategy. I do that purely off of emotions
Right.
of trying to get the money back. And yeah, I did tell myself the same thing, is that when you're down, start sizing down. And I don't follow it. So that's another thing that before I start trading with serious money again, I need to get better with that. I have a plan and I stick to it. And it took me a long time to realize what people meant when they said have a strategy and stick to the strategy. Then I'd ask the question, well, what is a strategy? What do you mean by that? And I never really got a great answer to that question. Um, and it's a question that I'm sort of starting to find the answer to, maybe a little bit too late, but I'm starting to discover that answer.
I actually really want to dive into like the what is a strategy and what is your strategy. But real quick, I just wanted to finish this line because we're kind of going on little branches.
Yeah.
Um, we were talking about uh our emotions whenever we suffer from a big loss because my decision also is made from an emotional standpoint. I mean, there is like logic into it, right? But it is emotional too. It's just my emotional response isn't going to size up, and this is actually something that I talk about on my channel very frequently, where I err on the side of fear over greed. I'm more
Okay.
afraid of losing money than I am like happy when I win money, and that's scientifically proven. There are studies that show that people feel worse losing $10, right, than feel happy making 20. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally.
So like
Yep.
you can make more money, but when you lose a smaller amount, you just feel awful. And that's
Yes.
why with my trading included, like I will always err on the side of fear over greed, and I urge everyone that is watching to err on the side of fear over greed because sometimes greediness can result in huge like tragedies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's a really good point. But I think kind of diving into that more, I think there's different fear responses, and I think we have opposite fear responses. And I think your fear is um, a fear of losing more, where my fear is a fear that I've already lost, and I'm scared because I lost so much, and I need to do something to get out of this state.
So do you think we could say that maybe it's you didn't really accept your loss, you didn't want to accept it yet, and therefore you couldn't really like because you didn't accept the loss is why maybe you went for the larger position because I think
Yeah, I think so.
generally
And I had convinced myself that I could not afford to lose this money, and by losing it, it was a really big deal for me to lose that money. In hindsight, what I think I should have done and what I am going to do going forward is think of a dollar amount that I am comfortable losing. Say, let's say I'm comfortable losing $1,000 on a trade, and that's it. I don't want to lose any more than that right now. That number is too high. But let's just say, just arbitrarily, $1,000 is the number that I'm comfortable losing, and then we half that and aim for $500 wins, and kind of back calculate it like that, rather than getting to a point where I didn't know what I was comfortable or not comfortable with. I just didn't want to take any loss at all, and that's not realistic. Because then, as soon as I took that $200 loss, which in hindsight was nothing, but I freaked out because of a $200 loss.
I'm surprised a little bit that the $200 loss was so impactful on you,
Yep.
given that you've had like other large losses that have been so much more. Because I don't consider myself to be like I'm not
Yeah, I
like a
think so.
big chip player. Like I make like anywhere from $100 to $500 a day, and my losses will be similar. Like I lose between 100 to like 300.
Mhm.
So a $200 loss for me, I guess if that was in one trade, but maybe it would be a little more comfortable. Like even yesterday,
Mhm.
yesterday I was up $170. Then I had a $280 loss, which was kind of like a
Mhm.
black swan event. It's the worst case scenario with my given strategy. And then I
Okay.
did finish the day up like I think like $30 or $40. But like after that trade, it's still within like a very comfortable range for me. And given that you've traded so much more money, I don't know, it was just a little surprising to me that $200 impacted you so heavily.
Well, I think it was like what you mentioned a few minutes ago, where that psychology thing is a small loss is more impactful than a big win. And I think that's what happened to me. It's like, yeah, in reality, logically, that amount of money wasn't that big of a deal. It's just the feeling of having a loss, I think, was what took over. Is it didn't matter. It could have been $5, but just the feeling of having the loss, I think, is what sort of started to take over. It snowballed. It wasn't immediately like, oh my God, I lost $200. I need to go all in on out of the money calls. It slowly progressed.
I know that you also said that, I think you said you got into trading kind of through like warrior trading.
Yeah, that was my. I didn't get too deep into that. I just happened to see a video, and that's what
So I also
sparked
got
me.
into trading from like warrior trading. Do you think that like because he has these big gains, if that like set your expectations too high? But I think that Ross actually does do a good job of informing his viewers that what he's doing isn't typical.
Yeah, and I think most, at least everyone that I followed, always says that. Like they say, I've been trading for a long time. Don't expect these results. Trading is very risky. Everyone says these sorts of things, and that's something that, from a logical standpoint, I know. But on the other side, I'm seeing these gains, and it's like, well, if he can do it, why can't I? He's like, yeah, I get that you have more experience, but also like I'm kind of thinking like, well, how hard can it be? If so many people are making money doing it, then I should be able to do it too. And even just by chance, if I just right now were to just buy a call or just buy stock in anything, um, you know, good chance that I could be right. And so I don't know. I'm going off on a tangent right here, but I guess I'm saying that I knew that the risk was there, and maybe I was just overconfident in myself, or was just caught up in the excitement of what could be.
How long have you been trading? I know that you kind of told us you got in through warrior trading, but how long have you been doing it?
So actively daily looking at charts, I've been doing for about 6 months now.
6 months. Okay. So I started a little bit before you. I think I started like March or April of 2020. One thing that we kind of I brushed off earlier was we were going to talk about strategy. Do you have like a strategy which you can very easily explain?
No, I can't, and that's a big problem, because so my logical strategy, my dream strategy, is just to purely play just breakouts and just scalp. And just take the move. If it doesn't break, get out immediately. Um, but then I catch myself getting on the emotional side. Oh, it doesn't break. Just give it another minute. It's gonna break. It drops, so I'll just give it another minute. It'll come back, and just not following my stop losses, and kind of just falls apart. And then I start completely deviating from my strategy of scalping and breakouts to like, well, now I'm gonna size down. Now I'm gonna position in, which is nothing like where I began.
I think that's pretty normal though, that people don't have something that they can define. And it's very often because you were asking earlier, you came to realize that you don't really know what a strategy is. You're like,
Yeah.
what is a strategy? And you mentioned that maybe you realized too late that you don't really have one.
Yeah.
Um, and I actually have a video on my channel that's called How to Develop a Trading Strategy. And what I kind of teach is a very scientific method approach towards trading, right? You begin with like observation, then you start to try to form a hypothesis, then you test your working hypothesis until you come to something that works.
Nice.
And that's why I personally strongly recommend every single viewer the paper trade before going live. And the reason why isn't because like paper trading is like going to necessarily make you successful right away, but it's because if you don't have a strategy, if you can't describe a strategy and you don't have it proven, you have no business trading with real money, in my opinion. Before I went live, I took an account from $2,000 to $32,000. So I already knew when I entered that what I'm doing is working. So that even if I started to struggle when going live, I already had the proof that it works. Because I hear some people argue that paper trading is only useful for learning a platform and that it doesn't really translate into live due to maybe emotions or the quality of fills or what have you. But even if we imagine that you have absolutely no emotions in paper trading, or your fills aren't representative or like similar to live, I still strongly believe that every single one of you should be paper trading until you can describe a strategy from ground up. If you can't teach your strategy to someone, you have no business going live, in my opinion. That's my
Yeah,
disclaimer.
and I've heard paper trading pushed a lot, and that was something that I was always very against doing for myself. Looking back on it, and it's clear that I should have done that. Um, but I just couldn't bring myself to it. I just felt like it was a waste of time, and it was boring, and I didn't have any emotions. And I would say to anyone who just cannot do it, like me, for whatever reason, they can't bring themselves to paper trade. I think the very next bet, something that I should have done longer. I started doing it, should have done it longer, is just take very very small positions, like a single share or 5 shares, depending on the size
I
of the
think I
stock.
saw
So
that. Haven't you been
yep,
posting for like a couple months? Like
yep, I was.
days where you'll like be making like 37 cents or losing like 23 cents or what have
Yeah,
you?
and so I think my biggest day while doing that was like $3.50. But also my biggest loss was like I had like a negative $2 day or whatever. So I was like, I'm not making any money, and it's basically paper trading because I'm not making any money. I'm not losing any money. My
Mhm.
account's staying flat, but it also still kind of has the excitement of it. That is actually real, and it is real time, and kind of just it follows the flow.
Where do you think you'll like move on? Like where are you going from here?
So I'm going to get back to what was working for the last couple of months, which was only stocks, doing scalping, and doing small positions. And I think I'm ready to start um, upping my position size. Um, but I was not ready. Clearly, was not ready to increase that position size to 100% of my account.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to be I'm going to start back in that single share, like $30 trade range, um, and and work my way up. And what I want to do now is when I when I get to a trade or when I get to a day where I take a loss and have the feeling of I'm not comfortable with that loss. That was too much money for me to lose. That's when I know that my position size is where it needs to be, or maybe a little bit too high. So I think that's the plan right now: is start scaling in slowly, maybe day by day or week by week. And once I hit that day where I take a loss that was more than I wanted to take, um, then I'll know. Because right now I don't really know what that number is.
But you're definitely gonna stick with trading.
Um, I think so. I've been going back and forth on that. Like maybe I should just go into real estate or something that like I don't have as much control over. My emotions don't have so much control over it. I think I'll give it one more shot. Just be very cautious with it. And if since this emotional breakdown happens to me again, then I'm going to need to look in other directions. Either go in index funds and just leave it, or go into real estate or some other form of investing, because the day trading thing would have been a failed experiment at that point.
What are you trading for? Like what is trading for you?
I'd like to stop working. I have a kid, and I want to spend more time with him and retire one day. And I was hoping that trading would give me the freedom and the time to do that.
So it's not really more of like a it's like you want to replace the job with trading.
Um, Initially, I mean, I'd love to get to the point where um, doing something like putting my money into an index fund and just leaving it there would make enough money for me to live on. But I think in the meantime, I think I can get to a point faster with being able to replace my income with trading
Mhm.
than having $2 million or whatever, so that the small gains would get me through.
So it's just a means to reach a sufficient principal to where interest can um,
Yep,
pay the bills.
exactly. Yep,
Right.
yeah. So I wouldn't think that I'd be day trading for the rest of my life or anything like that. Unless I just learn to love it at some point. But yeah, that's not really my goal at this point. It's just a means to get to a point where I don't need to do anything anymore.
I get that. Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people do get into trading for. It's
Yep.
like the freedom and the hope that we can hit retirement at an early age.
Yep.
Yeah. At what point, let's say, I don't know if you have like more money that you intend to fund accounts with, But at what point is enough? Where like, you know what, I can't do this. This isn't gonna work out. Do you have a point where you think that it's not gonna work out anymore, or is it just something that you think you're gonna keep going on for? Um,
Well, that was Tuesday. That was my feeling on Tuesday for sure. Is that I tried it a couple times. I took huge losses, and this just isn't for me, and I can't do this. And it was a really emotional day, and I've calmed down since then, and think I should give it another shot, because it can be life changing. Um, and if I can get a handle on it and figure all this stuff out, then it will be life changing. But as you said, at some point you got to say enough is enough. And so I think another day like I had on Tuesday, where I lose my shirt and I lose a lot more than I could afford to lose. Then I know that I'm just not cut out to do this. Not because I don't think I can learn how to do it, but because just I emotionally can't handle it.
and you funded your so last week you were doing the one share orders, right?
Yep.
And then this was the first week that you traded with the $18,000 account.
Uh, I think last week might have been the first week.
So it took 2 weeks then.
Yep, it
Two
lasted me
weeks.
2 weeks.
Damn. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, man. That really sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any like advice or any like kind of just things that we haven't mentioned that you would really want people to either take away, or something that you've learned, something introspective, like anything at all?
Yeah, a lot of it we've talked about already. Um, and I think that the big thing is not having the goal of winning a loss back. I think is a huge thing. Sizing in only to what you're comfortable with losing, because that's really what it's all about. Is taking small losses. It's a lot easier to win money than it is. Wait, where am I going with this? It's a lot easier to win than it is to not lose. I guess it sounds weird, but
It's a
it's a
lot
lot
easier to
easier to lose
win.
than it is to win. There we go.
Oh, it's a lot easier to lose. Yes, I agree with that. You can lose money
So
a lot because a lot of times, especially with kind of it seems like the emotional state that you were in, is really
mhm.
easy to like want to take that winner when you get them, and then you said that whenever you were losing, you would average down into it. And the popular phrase is always to never estimate how hard a stock can move against you. Yeah,
Yes. Yep.
yeah, definitely don't
Yeah.
underestimate that. And I've been
Yeah.
guilty of
I think
that too.
because there's no top side to, like, if I asked you how much are you comfortable with winning? There's no top side.
Yeah, you're like as much as
So,
I can
so,
get.
so
Yeah.
yeah. So you need to think about it the other way. Is how much am I comfortable with losing,
And that
and
goes
stick
back to
to it.
that goes back to the fear of greed.
Yep.
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 I've also said this before on stream. Whenever I'm trading, whenever I'm looking at a trade, sometimes I'll see a setup that is so beautiful. It's a beautiful setup, but I won't take the trade because I see if I'm wrong, I see how much more I could lose. Like there's times where I buy
Mm.
flushes. Like whenever a stock
Okay.
has a very hard drop,
I like
I
that.
scalp it and I sell within like a second or two.
Yep.
Um, and this is I call it the bungee pullback. It's a coin that I termed because I think it represents the idea of like a bungee
Makes
cord.
sense. Yeah.
Um, and that's what I trade. But there will be times where a stock has a lot more room to fall, and even though there's an opportunity for me to make like $100 on a trade, which for me like my average winner is like $30 to $50, and then I make a bunch of trades a day.
Mhm.
Um, there will be an opportunity that I could have like an irregular sized winner, but the potential loss is so high that I won't
Mhm.
take the trade, and I'll be like, guys, look, I can't take this trade because the potential for loss is so high. Even though if I had taken that trade, I would have made like a very good winner. And I
Yeah.
think that like I've had a lot of students kind of over the months, and some of them are still doing very very well, and then others quit doing it because they suffered a couple big losses.
Mhm.
And some people even comment on my videos saying, "Eric, someday you'll blow up your account." And I
Mhm.
hate to disagree with them, but I gotta disagree. And the reason why is because I'm always thinking, how much can I lose on this? The only time I suffer these big losses is when there's like a black swan event and and it drops by like 15%.
Yeah.
And then that like what happened to me yesterday. And maybe I'll wait. Actually, I think I deleted the footage. I was gonna play the loss I had yesterday on screen, but I think I deleted the footage, so I can't do that in editing. Anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry.
No, so one thing that kind of reminded me of is um, what I've noticed about my own emotions, and me being someone who struggles with that side of things. I have noticed that if I take a good setup, and it is everything that I was looking for, and I take the trade, and it just doesn't go my way, and so I get out. Um, I consider that a win. Like even if I lose a couple bucks, if I played the right setup, I held to my stop loss. That is a win for me, and I can go back and look at that trade again and say, you know what, I'm not upset that I took that trade because every indication said that that was a good trade to take, and I will never get upset about that. So I think if I only took trades like that, where the losses that I took were at least trades that I feel good about, I would consider that me being a good trader at
Mhm.
that point, if I'm only taking setups that I like.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, I think that my advice going to you, by the way,
Mhm.
in the future was I think that what you were doing with the one share was very good, but
Yep.
it seems like you just went from like 0 to 100.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And
And that wasn't really my intent. Um, it's just that, I wasn't used to losing that $200. And I think you mentioned earlier,
yeah,
like, why was that $200 so impactful?
mhm.
Well, because I've been losing $1 a day. My losing days have been $1. And now suddenly I'm down $200. So yeah, it wasn't anything, but I think that going from 0 to 100,
I
um,
appreciate what you just said so much, and the reason why is people comment on my videos saying, Eric, you're making this so much money. Why aren't you scaling up? If you know you're taking 1,000 shares and you make $3,000, but you could be taking 3,000 shares and make $9,000. And the reason
yep.
why is because going from making $30 a trade to 90 to $100 a trade on average is scary. Or alternatively, losing $20 a trade and then instead losing like $100 a trade. This transition is very difficult and relevant. I don't know your actual name, but your Discord name, relevant. Uh, you know, perfectly described what I'm talking about. Where if you go from small size to large size, it doesn't just magically work out. It's a very difficult thing to do because some people, especially like a lot of people that are kind of new to trading, believe that once they have a strategy, all they have to do is just start throwing money at it and then bam, they're a millionaire. Like, bam,
Yeah.
I have a profitable strategy. I'm a millionaire. And people say that to me too. Eric, why aren't you a millionaire if you have a profitable strategy? The reason why is I can't put full force or pedal to the metal behind my strategy at the current moment because I'm 20 years old and sitting there and having the potential to lose $500 or $1,000 a day, right? Like that's scary to me. I can feel comfortable losing $100. I'm not comfortable losing 1,000. So just remember, guys, slow transition on the way up is very important, and I think that's another great takeaway. And that was my
Yeah.
advice to you: is
Mhm.
my
No,
pro.
no, I was told that too. Going into that, I was told that whenever you scale up, there's going to be an adjustment period, and I didn't believe it,
Oh
but
man,
I do now.
every time I scale up, I generally have a pretty bad week. So uh, the start of December, I scaled up from 500 shares to 1,000 shares. From November to December, and that first 3 days on 1,000 shares were rough. I think I had a $400 loss my first day on 1,000 shares, which at the time was double or even quadruple my average
Oh,
loss before then. And then
yikes.
the next day I ended up making like $100, which was just like a normal win for me. And then bam, the next day I made $1,000
Ooh,
because I just had scaled up and it was a good day. And then I
yeah.
think the day after that, or then it was weekend. Then I came back, and then the week after that, I made a total of like $1,400 that week. So it was like you definitely just have to take it slow when you scale up, and then you'll get comfortable. But yeah, initially every time I've ever scaled up, the first couple days are very very difficult, so difficult because it's so scary. You're
Yeah.
seeing numbers that you've never seen before, and yeah,
Yeah.
definitely scale up slowly. My progression was 100 shares to 200 shares to 300 shares to 500 shares to 1,000 shares.
Okay.
And I'm currently transitioning from 1,000 to 1,500. Like today, I've taken 4 1,500 share positions.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would recommend also staying away from options, but that's my own personal. I'm very biased. I had bad experiences with options, but I think
Yep.
that overall they're a terrible choice. I stand by it. I have like very strong opinions on trading, and options are a no go because you can just lose so much so quickly. I know
Yeah.
Stock Jock, which is where I met you from,
Mhm.
trades options and he does it well, but
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Do you think you're gonna
No,
stick with
I'm
options?
I'm really well. I think uh, I was with you there even before this previous week. That it almost seems like a scam. That even if there's been times where I've been right, it's gone in the right
And
direction,
you
and I
lose.
still lose money.
Yes, that's why I hate
Um,
options.
yeah, and it's super frustrating.
Yeah.
And it's really attractive because of how much money you can get,
Mm,
but man, it's like it's basically a scam.
yeah.
So yeah, no more options for me. I mean, if I get to the point where um, maybe I've been doing this for a year or two and I'm just consistently winning just all the time, and I'm really comfortable with my strategy. I know that the entries, I know the exits, I control my emotions. Maybe that's the point where I can start day trading options, but I'm nowhere close to ready to do that right now.
I think that that's a good decision, and I don't personally support options, but
Mhm.
uh, it's just I know that there's people who can do it, so
Yep,
that's why I try to not be too anti options because I know a lot of people do it and it's very popular, but
very attractive.
it's very attractive. And here's the thing too that's a little like interesting to me. Generally, when I think of options or options traders, my my mind generally goes to people who don't have $25,000 and are
Mhm.
doing it so that they can still trade and make money without having to be subject to PDT because like you can still make enough money even if you only can take 3 trades in a margin account. Or you can do a
Yes,
cash account and the funds settle in a day. So I mean
yes.
honestly, you can just go and do a cash account with options and you're
Mhm.
you're going to be fine. Whereas with you, you had plenty of capital. So I like for that reason, you can still make like very attractive like amounts of money with without trading options.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I beat myself up internally about that very fact. Is I don't need $10,000 a day. I don't need that much money.
Yeah.
Um,
If you make
I,
a
I
thousand a day, that's a crazy amount of money.
exactly.
Yeah,
I
two
don't even
hundred
need that
fifty
much.
grand.
I get a couple $100. I'd be thrilled with a couple $100 a day.
Mm.
So why am I taking these Hail Marys and hoping for these $10,000 wins when I don't even need that much money?
Yeah, absolutely. That's my goal is 1,000 a day because that turns into 253,000 a year.
Yeah.
Um, and that's insane, especially because I'm still 20. I think like it's very easy to uh like want to have these high like very big goals for me, but I always just try to remind myself that I'm 20 and I wouldn't be able to make like that much money anyways. So if I'm able
Yeah.
to just make more than what a normal 20-year-old makes, then I should just feel happy, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
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 100%.
And I got
Yep.
time. Yeah, I really appreciate that you like gave some perspective on what happened. I didn't realize that it went beyond the uh $18,000 account. That's kind of crazy. But I hope that your journey continues on and you kind of figure things out.
I appreciate that.
I know that you just like we haven't talked before, and you probably don't know my channel. Check out the video about how to develop a strategy.
You were
Uh,
talking about that, and I was looking over to your
I
videos,
think
and I'm
that
gonna get to
I
that
think
one for
that
sure.
the how to develop a strategy would be useful to you and any others who aren't able to answer the question of how to build like or how to trade your strategy. If you can't teach someone your strategy, that video is definitely for you.
Great.
It's literally just the scientific method applied to trading, and then I give examples of how I built my own strategy using the approach that I offered. And maybe you can always give my strategy a try. Yeah,
Yep, will
yeah.
do. Yep.
You can shoot me a DMs if you ever have questions.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. If you have any parting words to the audience, or if you just have anything at all, otherwise no pressure. Like,
No, no, just fear the loss. Make sure you're comfortable with the losses, and stick to your strategy. Figure out the strategy, stick to it, and take small losses. Don't take big losses.
all right. Thank you so much for the interview, and it was really cool to learn a little bit more about what happened because I saw that in chat and I was just like, my mind was blown. I looked at that and I was so confused. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, not a problem.
Thanks, man.
Yep, anytime.